Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away. To the groove and the light that flickers. We get lost in the crowd, it's getting thicker. Get away from the drinks and chatter. Haven't said a word, but it doesn't matter.
Welcome to Better Than Ever Live, wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening. Hope you're making today your masterpiece. On today's show, we're going to talk about foods that can increase your risk of an early death. We're going to talk about how having insomnia now might hurt your brain later in life. We're going to talk about actually lifting weights to lose weight, how much or how little exercise you need to lower your risk of future heart attacks and other cardiovascular disease, and why being in nature helps your brain. I'm Dr. David Geier, double board certified orthopedic surgeon, sports medicine specialist, and media medical expert. I help you feel and perform your best regardless of age, injury, or medical history. As always, please understand I'm not giving you medical advice when I talk about any of these studies. This is meant for general information and educational purposes only. Wherever you're watching, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, obviously if you're listening to this on podcast, you can't leave comments. But if you're watching this on social media, leave those comments about the studies we talk about. I'll try to address them as we go. If you have a medical or orthopedic question, join us tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Time for Ask Dr. Geier Live. Again, if you are on YouTube, leave your comments in the chat, not in the comments below, because all I can see is the chat. If you hear it overhead, there is a massive thunderstorm going on right now, so I apologize if every now and then you hear a lot of thunder. It is loud. Now, fortunately, my mic being right here and the type of mic it is, it shouldn't catch sound from very far away, so you might not see that. We need the rain, so I'm not going to complain. Georgia, how are you? It's good to see you. Really excited to be here. A lot of good stuff to talk about today. A lot of exercise type talk that if you know anything about me, and you can't really tell, but I just came from the gym, so I love talking about exercise, so there's a lot on this show. Also, if you have topics you'd like me to talk about, health, wellness, sleep, aging, anything like that, definitely send ideas my way. People sometimes tell me, hey, I want you to talk more about exosomes, or I want you to talk more about that. Let me know, and I will try to start tailoring at least some of the studies we talk about, some of the topics we talk about, to things that you're potentially interested in. All right, our first one we're going to talk about, which doesn't apply right now because I can't get outside because it is pouring rain. But normally, one of the great aspects of Charleston, South Carolina is that we're on the coast. It is so easy and so great to get outside, whether it's walking downtown in the historic district or going out to the beaches or whatever. Running over the bridge, walking over the big bridge that goes over into the Charleston Harbor. It's great. Not everybody has access to that. People in big cities, people in certain parts of the country and parts of the world don't have access to this. But here is why it matters. There was a study that just came out. A lot of different researchers in this. Boston University, Harvard, Brigham and Women's at Boston, affiliated with Harvard, Rush Medical College. Big study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association and their JAMA Network Open, looking at the amount of green space around your house where you lived and how it affected your brain, basically cognitive measures. And this was generally adults, and in this study, it was all women. What they found out, and I'll explain how they did it in a second, but they basically found out that the more green space exposure the women had, the faster their thinking skills these women had, and the better they were able to concentrate. Now, this wasn't just a small study. This was almost 14,000 women, average age of about 60. They looked at psychomotor speed. They looked at attention, learning, working memory. Psychomotor speed is the speed of thinking measured in terms of how then you turn that thinking into action. Now, to measure green space, this is kind of cool. For all 13,500 plus of them, They had satellite imagery, and then they used this thing called the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, which basically assesses how close you are to live green vegetation. And what they found out was green space exposure was associated with enhanced psychomotor speed, again, that's the speed of thinking, and enhanced attention compared to people not near green space. And that was at least partly explained by the people that were closer to nature had lower rates of depression. We've talked about being in nature and how that's good for your mental health. Well, living in nature and getting out in nature seems to be very good, not just for your mental health and depression, but also for your brain's ability to function. Now, why would green space be helpful? Well, the authors of the study said, well, it's probably something related to getting outside, get physical activity, and maybe you get out with other people, social connection. We know that's good for stress relief. Plus, potentially being in nature, maybe you are less exposed to noise pollution, less exposed to air pollution. But they say, all right, let's just say you live in a big city, you can't get anywhere near nature. It doesn't mean that you don't get some of these benefits. There are ways to do it. So the authors of the study said, have indoor plants. Look at the trees through your windows if you can't get outside. Get involved in community gardens. They said, if nothing else, look at pictures of trees. That at least gives you some of the benefits. All right, exercise. Let's first start talking about why most people exercise either to feel good or lose weight or to get stronger. They want to get bigger, they want to get stronger. But one of the good things about exercise is it's also a preventative measure, helping you to avoid issues down the road. And the one that we always talk about is cardiovascular disease. And those heart attacks, those strokes typically happen in your 70s. They can happen earlier, obviously, it's certainly worrisome, but you really worry about it in your 70s. So how much exercise do you need to do when you're younger to avoid those heart attacks and strokes when you're in your 70s? Well, we know, let's be perfectly honest, any amount of exercise is better than none. I don't care if it's just going up a flight of stairs, that's better than sitting all day. But having said that, this is what this new study found. At least 20 minutes a day of physical activity may be all you need to avoid cardiovascular problems in your 70s. These were Italian researchers. This study was published in February in the journal called Heart. Cardiovascular journal, and they studied almost 3,000 people 65 and older who they had been following for over 20 years. What they found out is people that did between 20 and 40 minutes a day of moderate intensity activity, and all that is just going for a brisk walk, 20 to 40 minutes, enough that you could have a conversation with somebody else, enough that you could still breathe through your nose without having to open your mouth. So moderate intensity activity or vigorous intensity activity, gardening, working out at a gym, biking, dancing, swimming, any of that, 20 to 40 minutes a day. Fewer heart attacks, fewer cardiovascular problems, lower risk of premature death compared to people who did not do that. And among men, we are lucky. All we needed in this study was 20 minutes a day. That led to a 52% lower risk of cardiovascular problems compared to people who didn't exercise. You cut your risk in half by going for a 20-minute walk. I promise you it is easy to do. And the way I know that is that one of the things we've been sort of studying in our office and trying it with people, we have a lot of really active people, but they want to get in even better shape. They want to see their abs. They want to have very low body fat, very low visceral fat. So we've been toying around with getting more zone 2 cardio, and that's basically the level of cardio where you can talk to another person or keep your mouth closed and just breathe through your nose. You're not working that hard. And we've been recommending 3 hours a week of zone 2 cardio to people, and it's having amazing wonders on body fat and visceral fat. Again, not medical advice, just something that we see with our patients. But so obviously when I see benefits like that in my patients, I do it too. Now, I haven't been doing it in nature. I get on a treadmill so I can study my board review stuff. As you know, I'm studying for the anti-aging and regenerative medicine boards in June. So I basically do that on my phone, but I'm on a treadmill for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, 80 minutes. It is not hard to do zone 2 cardio, just walking. 20 minutes a day for guys, women, 20 to 40 minutes a day. You will dramatically lower your risk of cardiovascular disease. I I've been advised to exercise to avoid osteoarthritis. Actually, that's an interesting topic. Hang on, let me think of how I want to say this here. So I love hearing that, Georgia, because here's the thing. There are so many orthopedic surgeons that say, you got to stop running. You're going to get arthritis down the road. And there really is no evidence that exercise causes arthritis. Now, you can have an underlying unstable knee and a lot of factors that then you start doing some repetitive activity that may contribute to arthritis. But if anything, exercise and weight-bearing exercise is good for the cartilage. It is good for the bone. It is good for moving the joint fluid through your knee and lubricating the joint. That is the worst advice ever, to tell people to stop exercising. Here's the other argument about arthritis and exercise. Let's just say, in theory, that if exercise did worsen arthritis, that's, again, I'm not saying that's true, but if it did, here's the argument. Even if you're going to need a knee replacement faster, it doesn't do you any good to stop exercising and dying of a heart attack and never getting the benefits of that knee replacement anyway. So I am all for exercise as a preventative measure for arthritis. Even if you have arthritis, I feel like it's helpful. So sorry, I got off on a rant there, but thank you very much for that comment. All right, let's talk about insomnia, because this is something, if you've watched this show for any period of time, occasionally I deal with insomnia. So this is a study out of the University of Helsinki that they were looking at insomnia in middle life. This is 40s, 50s-ish, and what effect that had on people after they retired. And what they wanted to look at is they wanted to look at memory, cognitive functions, learning ability, concentration later based on having insomnia now. What they found out, it kind of complicated how they did the study, but basically, if you had insomnia in those years, especially for a long period of time, you dealt with this for years, whether it's not getting enough sleep, you wake up a lot at night, you wake up too early in the morning, you just toss and turn, and just can't sleep well, not enough quantity, not enough quality of sleep, that led to worse issues with concentration, with learning, cognitive function, after you retired. So the sort of the take-home point of that was, all right, if you have insomnia now, it is time to start looking into it. Now, there's a lot of things you can do on your own. Set the same sleep time, same wake time, 7 days a week. Make your room as dark as possible. Make it as cold as possible. No blue light within an hour before you go to bed. Try to limit alcohol. Try to limit heavy meals to 3 hours before you go to sleep. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but you're still struggling, and this is probably something that I probably ought to look into at some point. Maybe you see a sleep specialist to see what the issue is. In this case, yes, the benefits of sleep, feeling good, and it's good for weight loss and so many reasons to get good sleep. Athletic performance, just overall feeling good during the day, mood. But down the road, we're talking about preventing your brain from declining, and preventing your brain function from declining can be really important. Gurpreet, I was telling earlier on this show, I don't really do orthopedic type questions, but I will be here tomorrow for Ask Dr. Geier Live, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Come tomorrow and ask that question, and I will talk about it as long as you want to talk about it. That's all I do on that Friday show, is answer orthopedic questions. So definitely come tomorrow. All right, weightlifting. Here's getting back to George's point about our osteoarthritis and ways to try to avoid making it worse. One of the challenges that we see as orthopedic surgeons, somebody comes in with a fairly osteoarthritic knee, or it can be rheumatoid arthritis, anything like that, and they're overweight or they're obese, and you want to we frequently as orthopedic surgeons tell people, hey, it would really help you if you lose weight. The argument is every step you take, you put 3 to 5 times your body weight on your knee, for instance, with each step. So if you lose 20 pounds, that's 60 to 100 pounds per step of force that you're taking off your knee. So obviously you would feel a lot better. But one of the challenges with that, and we always say, all right, if we're going to try to lose weight, it's going to be aerobic exercise, walking, jogging, things like that. But people struggle to do that when they're significantly overweight or they have arthritis or something like that. So maybe there's something else they could do. Well, the study just came out in the journal Obesity Reviews out of Edith Cowan University, which I'm almost positive is in Australia. They wanted to see if lifting weights would be a good way to help people that are trying to lose weight, help obese people who are trying to lose weight. Because again, aerobic exercise is really difficult for some people. So if you're not able to run, jog, do Stairmasters and that kind of thing, maybe weightlifting, resistance training with bands, machines, things like that. That may be a way to reach your weight loss goal. So they took data from over 4,000 people. It was a meta-analysis, 120 studies that combined had over 4,100 people. And what they found out is the people that had the greatest weight loss, looking at weight lifting, were the people who cut back their calories and, yes, followed a weightlifting program. They lost not just weight, they lost body fat, they lost body fat percentage, body fat mass. And if they added even a little bit of aerobic exercise to their resistance training, they lost even more weight. So you don't have to do that much. Again, it gets back to just go for walks if that's all you can do. That can be really helpful. Gupri, you are very welcome. I hope to see you here tomorrow. All right, let's talk about foods that will kill you early. This was a study out of Loma Linda. I think this is funny because if you watch the early versions of Better Than Ever Live, the early shows, I did one on death by hot dogs and how hot dogs have been shown to shorten your life. Each hot dog by like 33 minutes, and I want to say potatoes was like 8 minutes, or I forget the potato number, but not ideal. But there was a new study, a legit study out of Loma Linda, published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And it was kind of interesting what they looked at. And if you don't know, so Loma Linda is associated with the Seventh-day Adventists, and so they did a study of over 77,000, I think it was 77,000 Seventh-day Adventist members. And if you know anything about them, I talk about the book Blue Zones, the 7 or so hot spots around the world that have a high percentage of people that live into their past 100 years old, centenarians. And the only one in the United States was out there, Loma Linda, with people that eat really well. And so what they did is they surveyed people looking at, it was like 200 different foods and how often do you eat these on a regular basis. And then they followed them for all sorts of things, cardiovascular events, heart attacks, strokes, things like that, death, things like that. Here's what they found. The foods that seem to be associated with an earlier risk or a risk of early death, early mortality. This may surprise you, it may not. Ultra-processed foods. You've heard me rail on processed foods. Things in bags, things in boxes, things in cans, things in frozen food packages, anything that's been preserved like that, these ultra-processed foods, things you don't have to cook yourself or you just heat up in the microwave, are some of them. Soft drinks, candy, processed meats, bacon, sausage, things like that, all associated with a higher risk of early mortality. Also, people who ate red meat every day, hamburgers, steaks, things like that, 8% higher risk of early mortality. These ultra-processed foods, I've sort of wavered. People ask sometimes what's the one change they would make if you wanted to switch to a healthy diet. And I've talked about eating more vegetables, especially green vegetables. I've said cut out sugar. I've talked about cutting out dairy, cutting out gluten potentially. All that's good. Cutting your sodium down, all good. But if you want one way to do almost all of that, maybe not the dairy, but is cutting out the ultra-processed foods. Really, really high in sodium and trans fats that are so horrible for you, and refined carbs that are so bad for your cardiovascular system. That's what I would do as the one big change. Throw out and I know that's easier said than done. Those are convenient, those are cheaper, but those are extremely, extremely important in terms of just overall cardiovascular health. All those refined carbs are largely why people put on body fat, more so than even saturated fats. Those refined carbs really bad. In this study, the people that ate half their calories on a single day or every day from ultra-processed foods, 14% higher risk of early mortality. Mortality from respiratory conditions, neurological conditions, kidney conditions, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, all related to high intake of ultra-processed carbs and or red meat. So may not be the most fun topic, but if you can cut that out, that is a huge change. Yes, that is true. It can burn more calories. There's no question. Weightlifting doesn't typically do that, but she makes a fantastic point about weightlifting. The thing about weightlifting, whether it's dumbbells, barbells, resistance bands, machines, if you can increase your lean muscle mass even a little bit, muscle burns far more calories than other tissues in your body. You have more muscle mass, you burn more calories down the road. So the benefits may not be during the workout. I mean, they are during the workout, but it's even more after. She hit the nail on the head there. All right, if you're watching this or listening to this and you don't subscribe on YouTube, definitely subscribe to my video channel. I talk about sleep, nutrition, aging, exercise, longevity, aging, dying early, all sorts of good stuff. Definitely subscribe to my video channel. Tell other people you know that talk about this if they're interested to join us as well. And if you can't be here live, I know 5 p.m. Eastern time is not good for everybody. I tend to lose most of my European audience that shows up at noon on Fridays because it's a time they can watch. But make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, literally everywhere. It's on like 20 or 30 different platforms. Better Than Ever Live. Also check out Better Than Ever Daily, my Monday through Friday daily tips on very similar topics. They're less than a minute a day, so you can listen to 20 of them on your way to work. Also, if you have an orthopedic injury and you just want information about the injury, recovery, surgery, whatever it is, join us on Fridays, 12 p.m. Eastern time, including tomorrow. But if you want to come see me as a patient, again, I'm double board certified, hopefully soon to be triple board certified, adding anti-aging and regenerative medicine. But if you want to talk to somebody that knows about all kinds of treatments, not just surgery, not just cortisone, but can talk to you about all different kinds of things to try to keep you from needing surgery, help improve your performance, both just daily living, but also athletic performance, I would love to see you. In the description below is a link to my website, drdavidgeier.com. There's a work with me button on the homepage. It drops to a contact thing. Just fill that out, send it to me. Me and my assistant, we will try to help you set that up. Plus, Charleston's amazing. I mean, it really is. It's a great place. So definitely come join us here, and hopefully we can get you better. That is all I've got today. Very excited. Thank you for all the great comments. I love those topics. Really, really interesting. Go have dinner if you're on the East Coast. It's getting close to about that time. Maybe try to avoid red meat and processed foods. Not medical advice, just a suggestion that I give a lot of people. But really excited to be here. If you have an orthopedic injury, join us tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern time. I look forward to seeing you then. Have a fantastic night.